If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. Really appreciate you listening. Tonight's guest wishes to remain anonymous. With that in mind, we're just going to call her Randy. Let's bring her in here now. Randy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Randy, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
Well, I've lived in Colorado most of my life. I'm 41, I think. Yeah, 41. I have 2 kids, 2 boys. They're teenagers now, and I work all the time, so I don't have a whole lot of time, to spend at home, but make do.
Yeah, I know what it's like when you work all the time. Seems like any time off is a holiday. I feel for you. I really do. Let's set a baseline here. What were your thoughts about the existence of cryptids before you had that encounter that we're going to talk about tonight?
Well, never really. Well, I guess when I was like 4, I thought that I had some like paranormal experiences, but again, I was 4, so I was like, well, I was probably imagining it or whatever. But I, I don't know. I mean, I always thought there was probably some stuff out there, but never. I always would think about like Bigfoot or whatever. My grandma had said that she saw Bigfoot. She lived in Idaho, and but I never seen anything weird until 2011. So I guess that I was really open. I mean, I wasn't like a super skeptic or anything like that, but I'd never seen anything with my own eyes, so I didn't really truly believe anything, at that time.
Well, that doesn't make any different from most people. You really didn't have any reason to believe that things like this could be out there. That is until you actually saw one that night. So, doesn't make any different from most people. You'd never shared all the details of your encounter with anyone until we had our first conversation, from what I understand. Why did you decide to keep it in and not put it out there with at least family members?
Well, I've told some of my family members, but not many, just my kids and like my mom pretty much. And then the person who was with me that night, of course, we talked about it that night, but I don't know, I guess people, well, I'm sure you know how people are. But, I mean, I guess a lot of people are just, I don't know, like, I guess fear of not being believed or, yeah.
You had a fear that your family members that you didn't tell about the experience, that they were going to laugh at you and make fun of you?
Oh, yeah, they think I was crazy.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's pretty common. A lot of people, they keep their encounters in. It's like a prison with no walls. That's how I put it, because here you have this experience that you'd really benefit from being able to put out there and talk about, but you can't in a lot of cases because of what you just mentioned, the fear of being derided and being the punchline at every family get together. It's really a shame that you have to worry about something like that when you have a dogman encounter, but in most cases, yeah, that's what you get. When you had your encounter in November of 2011, you said that you noticed something strange before it actually happened. Please expand on that for us.
Well, it was nighttime, so out in the middle of nowhere, kind of. It gets really dark, so you can see the stars and everything. But it wasn't just the stars up there; there was a lot of lights in the sky, and I mean, I know that at least a couple of them were, I noticed were planes, but there were more than just that. It was, I don't know, there was a lot of like blinking going on and different colors. I don't know. It was really weird. I pointed it out to who I was with, and he said, "Oh yeah, like that is pretty weird," And I haven't since then seen anything quite like that. I mean, there's just a lot of sky activity. It was really strange. Not sure if that had anything to do with it at all, but it was definitely something I remember.
You read my mind. I was going to ask if you think the two might have been connected. There have been quite a few eyewitnesses who had an encounter with a dogman or a Sasquatch, and not long after that, they saw a UFO or something happened along those lines, which it really does make you wonder if there is a connection. But of course, that's something we're never going to have the answer to. All we can do is guess. That night when you had your encounter, you had your two boys with you. How old were they back then?
Let's see. One of them was 1, and the other one was 3.
Really young then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
so they're so
babies.
young that I'm sure even the 3-year-old doesn't remember anything about that night, does he?
No, he doesn't.
You said that you told them about your encounter. How did they respond, though, when you did that?
They believe me. We're really close, so they believe me, and they know, they know when I'm really serious. I joke a lot, like a lot, like I'm a clown, but like they totally know that's not a joke, and I was very dead serious. But yeah, I do believe that they truly believe me.
Well, that's good. Do they seem to be glad that you told them or pretty indifferent
Yeah.
about the whole thing?
Yeah, especially my older one. He loves it when I tell him, anything about, my past experiences and stuff. And yeah, he every now and again he'll ask me about that. He'll bring it up again, and ask me more questions about it, and we talk about it sometimes still.
Well, it's always good to have someone to do that with. It really is. Now, I get the idea, the impression that you might want to keep your friend's identity secret as well. And with that in mind, reveal as little as you want to answer this next question. I'm basically wondering, what can you tell us about that friend who was with you that night?
Well, he lived right down the street from me at the time, about a mile away, and um, you know, he was he lived in that house for 15 to 20 years, I believe. His parents owned it, and he lived there for a very, very, very long time. And 2 months after this happened, he just abruptly moved out of it there, and I didn't really hear much from him after this incident. We talked about it that night and then never spoke about it again. But about a month afterwards, it was just hard to get a hold of him, and we kind of lost contact. So, and the only connection I have now is a friend of mine who still talks to him, and she has tried to bring it up to him, and he just shuts her down. Like, he will not, he refuses to talk about it. So,
It might seem like it was a case of him moving away made it inconvenient to stay in contact with you, but it really could go the other way as well. Which way do you think it is? Do you think you lost contact with him because he moved away and it wasn't as convenient to speak with you? Or do you think he associated you with that encounter, what happened that night? And speaking with you, thinking about you brought up bad memories about what happened that night. And that's why he decided to be so distant.
I think a little bit of both, but I do know that, we started losing contact before he moved. So,
Well, that could go 2 ways too. I mean, if he did associate you with that encounter and thinking about that encounter was the last thing he wanted to do, the moment it happened, he might have decided to distance himself from you. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's just something else that caused that to happen. But whatever the reason, I'm just so sorry to hear that you did lose contact with him like that. That's too bad. All right, Randy, please tell us all about your encounter now. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
like I said, the sky was, a bit active. Um, and we were on our way back from the store when I had noticed that. It was about, between 9 and 9:30. It was really dark though, it being November and all in Colorado. Um, and he had 5 dogs. So the setting is like when I say in the middle of nowhere, I mean there's a store down the road, like maybe 15 minutes down the road, but and there's not a lot of houses. There's like each house, there's like sporadically there'll be like a street here and there. Mostly it's just like farming, there's a lot of cows, there's small patches of like, woods here and there, but it's not like a thick foresty area. It's just, there's a lot of cows out here, and there's a lot of, horses and farm animals and things. And the properties are pretty spread out. So sporadically you'll see a street here and there, and then on those streets, each property has approximately, like 1.5 to 2 acres, and there'll be maybe like 6 or 7, 6 to 10 probably houses on each street out here. So the street he lived on, I didn't tell you this before either, but it's on a dirt road, and he was about 3/4 of the way down the street is where his house was. Well, the neighbors, okay, so he has 5 dogs at the time. He has 5 dogs, and they're all like in a, pretty large chain fence area and these, I've never, ever, like the whole time I knew him, I never heard none of the dogs bark or, anything. Like they are very calm and well behaved and quiet. You don't even barely notice they're there, really. Well, the neighbors that are closest to him have a lit up pathway. So like their whole driveway, there was like little small, lights, lighting up the whole pathway of their driveway, which is how I saw that. But first, before I saw that, so we pull in, the dogs, they are barking their heads off. They're all freaking out. And, we're like, wow, that's really weird. We had a little discussion about that, because he was like, yeah, I don't really hardly ever hear them bark either, but they were freaking out, panicking. And, it made me on edge, like, a little uneasy. So I grabbed the boys, and one of them I was on my hip, the other one I was holding his hand, and we walked up the porch steps. I took them, I went to go take them inside, and I come back out to help carry some stuff in, and Trey was kind of on edge, like already. So he was kind of like scoping the place out a little bit. He kind of was trying to walk around the trailer to see like what, if he could see anything that was out there. Once I brought the boys inside, the dogs, I don't remember here, like, I don't know if it was like I don't really remember how, like, if it was instant or what, but they went silent. I mean, they weren't making any noises at all. They were perfectly still. Which was even more weird, because like they were just freaking out like really bad. When Trey was almost, like, he was about halfway down one side of the trailer to, like, see what was going on. I was like right outside of the front door at this time, and I saw him creeping around the, trailer, and we hear this like really long, deep, growl, I guess. And it was like coming from everywhere. It wasn't even, you cannot pinpoint anywhere like close to where it might be coming from. I mean, it literally was just surrounding you, like it was coming from like everywhere. So we look at each other, our eyes got all big, and by the time he makes it almost to the end of the trailer, the neighbor's lit up pathway, I saw like a silhouette. So like I did not see any details, but what I would describe it as is like a long, like long bodied, large bodied. I guess it reminded me of a greyhound for some reason, but a greyhound dog, like, and he was running on all fours up the lit up pathway. And I'm like not exaggerating when I say this, like when he was running on all fours, about halfway up the pathway, he went from 4 feet running to standing up on 2 feet, and then continued to run, and didn't slow down or anything to like make that transition. And it was like really, really, like I almost I had to like question like what the heck I was like, if I was really seeing that. But again, I was not the only one that saw that. So really shortly after that, he kind of followed me inside and we discussed it. I didn't end up going home that night, but I know I've heard a lot of like people who ever describe like when they've witnessed anything like the transition from 4 legs to 2 feet. I would hear like usually there's like a some crackling of bones or like it's kind of a a whole ordeal for the transition. But in this case, um, it was not like that. It was literally 4 feet running and then transitioning to 2 feet running, like without missing a beat, like whatsoever. It was incredibly, incredibly strange. And at the time, I didn't even consider like a dog man or anything because at the time I had no clue that that even existed. I would have, I mean, at the time, like really what was going through my mind was, did I just see like a werewolf? Like, what in the world, did I just see? And I mean, every single day of my life since then, I have thought about that experience every single day. For a long time, I was really terrified to go outside, especially at night, which I'm not sure why, because you know, um, scary things, if they're there at night, I'm sure they're probably there during the daytime too. But for the longest time, I was really fearful. But then it just started getting very fascinating, I guess. Like I started doing a little research. I didn't start doing research till years later, though. Um, I don't know why, but I did think about it every day. But then a few years later, I started doing a bunch of research, and I was like looking up like werewolves and like sightings of werewolves, and then I was like, well, just like dog man, like a man that's a dog or a dog man, half dog, and then I found your show, and that's when I started listening and realized that wow, there's like way, way, way more people out there that like have seen stuff similar to that than I ever would have imagined.
Yeah, if you only knew. There are tons and tons. I'll bet you know people who've had encounters with dogmen that you don't realize they've had these encounters because, of course, they haven't put it out there that they had those experiences. But yeah, these encounters are far from a very rare thing. It's not like they're common. I wouldn't say they're common, but they do happen a lot more than most people would ever believe. It could have so easily stayed hidden from you. Why do you think it made its presence known to you the way it did?
I don't know. At the time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, he was probably whatever that was probably gonna eat the dogs or something," or I don't know. But, like, I guess the more I think about it, I really don't know. But I really can tell you the one thing, though, is that I don't regret having that experience, though, 'cause, it's I don't know, it fascinates me, really, especially nowadays, instead of, yeah, it definitely fascinates me. Fascinating thing.
Well, if you can say that, that's a good thing. Have there been any negative things that have come along with that? You said that you're glad that you had that experience, which tends to make me think it's almost all been positive blowback from it. Have there been any
Almost.
negative things that have come out of this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially right at like very soon after, like I was just it put a lot of fear in me, but and nowadays it's not so much me, like I'm not really worried about me. I like worry about my kids because they love to go on walks and they really love to go on walks when it's dark outside for some reason. So, um and that picture pops in my head when they do, it just depicts the visual of what I saw, you know, enters my mind a lot of times, when they're, hey mom, I'm gonna go out for a walk, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, here, can you take this mace with you? Or can you. But but yeah, what you were telling me the last time we talked was actually really helpful.
Oh, you mean about me heading into the big woods and walking miles and miles?
Yeah, that and the instructions that like if you see one, what you should do.
Oh, good. I'm glad that helped you. How far into the woods do these guys walk at nighttime?
There's not a whole lot of woods, like, well, where there's a small patch of woods, like, well, it's a pretty small patch of woods, like, basically in our backyard, but they walk usually the other direction, which is not woods, but still a lot of farm animals and stuff, and I imagine that's, probably maybe what drew the creature out here. I don't know, but yeah, it's just dark, just darkness.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, they'll go like a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, sometimes even a mile.
it doesn't have to be in the woods to have a dogman encounter. Any place outdoors, that's their playground, especially at nighttime. After our first conversation, I should have asked for more clarity on this, but from some of the things that you said in that conversation, I kind of got the impression that you had the mindset, at least up until the point where we spoke there. I got the impression you had the mindset that as long as you were inside, as long as the boys were inside, everything was good. That was a safe place. But later on in that conversation, I shed light on the fact that if they wanted to come into your home and get you, they could. But the fact that all these years later, you haven't had a dogman problem is everything to do with the fact that they don't want to come into your home and get you. They don't want to get you, period. Before we had that conversation, did you have that mindset that inside your home was a safe place from them?
Yeah, and I guess it's like a natural thing, but yeah, I mean, I have actually thought of that before, yeah, I'm pretty sure that if it really wanted to, it could just kick down a wall. These are not very strong walls, and that does come to my mind every now and again. But yeah, for the most part, I did feel pretty safe in here. It was very rare that I would come to that realization. But yeah, you pointed that out, and yeah, you are absolutely right. Um, just as unsafe in here, pretty much, as out there.
Oh, definitely. Now, for some people, that's really unnerving when I shed light on that fact. But I mean, you'd be better off not living a lie, knowing the truth of the matter, than living a lie and not realizing that if they did want to come in and get you, they could. But like I hammered home in that conversation with you, yes, it's true. If they wanted to come in, they could, but they've had all this time, but they haven't done that for the best possible reason. And that's because they don't want to come in and get you. So I just wanted to make sure you clearly understood that. Now, you said that it had a body like a greyhound, but how would you describe its head?
Well, I guess I didn't really like when I. And by the way, I forgot to mention that when I say greyhound, I meant like a long-haired, like a long-bodied, long-haired like greyhound. But I guess now that I think of it and look back, I don't know. I just attached greyhound to it back then. I don't know why, because I mean, it wasn't scrawny or anything. It had, quite a bit of, it looked like it was like, had quite a bit of hair, like long hair. I couldn't see like details. But I could tell it was like a big and long, like tall, especially when it stood up on 2 feet while it was running, tall, but I guess I can't really remember like the head too much, as far like I can't really remember, too much about that, because since I only saw the silhouette, but it definitely was a dog of some sort, like a canine, or, definitely. There's no mistaking that for sure, but I don't really know. Yeah, it's hard to remember when I didn't really see too much detail, just a silhouette.
Well, you can't be faulted for that. You see something like that out there that's not supposed to exist, your brain's going to short circuit. I think you deserve a lot of credit for observing what you did, for noticing the details you did. So, yeah, you can't be faulted for that at all. Did you see enough detail though? And again, if you didn't, no big deal. It's understandable. But did you see enough details to be able to tell if the hair on its head might have been longer or the same length as on the rest of its body?
Well, I think, like, so from what I remember like around the, I guess some part of my brain must remember a part of the head or something, because I do remember some like longer hair, like I guess where, like in the jaw area, like the sides of the face or the jaw area or something, like I remember it being bigger there, bushier or bigger.
Well, like I said, did a really good job noticing that and all those other details. You really did. Now, you dove headlong into the whole cryptid topic after you had that experience, but how long was it before you actually were able to hang a name on what it was that you saw that night?
A few years at least, like probably, I don't know, maybe like 4 years at least, I think.
Wow, about 4 years. Did that eat away at you? Were you frustrated, wanting to know more than anything what it was that you saw? I'm sure you knew there had to be a name for what it was that you saw, but were you really frustrated by that, not knowing?
Yes, and I'll tell you, I thought for the longest time, I in my head I chalked it up to being, well, there definitely obviously was like a government experiment gone wrong, or something like something got loose that they created, or that's pretty much where my mind went.
Yeah, well, a lot of people they wonder things like that after seeing one of these guys. So again, that doesn't make you any different from a lot of other eyewitnesses either. It really doesn't. Now, you said that there has been some negative blowback from that experience. Does that mean you've had recurring nightmares or no trouble with nightmares?
Um, I haven't really not to speak of, no, I haven't really had any nightmares. I have for some reason more nightmares about tornadoes than anything, but I haven't really had any nightmares, but it's like every waking moment, or like there was a point in time where, I mean, it consumed my all my thoughts, like where I couldn't stop thinking about it, which is really surprising, that I didn't really have any nightmares to speak of, um but yeah, I mean, when I was awake, it was definitely on my mind all the time.
No, I believe it. Did you get sick of the fact that it was on your mind all the time, or because you're interested in this whole cryptic topic, was that okay with you?
Um, yeah, I got so, I guess, like, so curious that it deeply frustrated me. I'll put it that way. Very deeply frustrated me, because it was just, what in the world was that? Like, it just drove me insane. Not knowing what it was, and like, where is it now? And yeah, it was very a little bit frustrating, but
Oh, that's totally natural. You've been living a lie. Ever since you learned how to understand the spoken word, it's been hammered into your head that things like dogmen can't be out there. They don't exist. So one day, or more accurately, I should say one night, you have an experience where you actually see one of these guys. And then when that happened, it turned all that up on its ear. If these guys are out there, then what else might be out there? So the fact that you have been living a lie, it's going to really throw you for a loop. It's only natural that you're going to obsess on that the way you have. As long as you don't let that really negatively affect your life, then it's not that bad of a thing, which I'm glad that you didn't let that ruin your life or even negatively affect your life. Thank goodness for that. But yeah, what you went through, totally normal when it comes to a dogman encounter. Now, you don't have to answer this next question. If you'd like to, then by all means. But again, there's no pressure to. What I'm wondering though is how far do you live now from where you lived back then when you had that encounter at your friend's
now
house?
I still live in the same kind of like I guess town, but not really a town, but I still live in the same, zip code, but it's a little farther away now. So I'm like 7 miles away from where that happened. But I drive by there like, all the time. So
Do you get goosebumps when you do?
I do sometimes, especially when, I mean, I sometimes, not sometimes, but this one time a couple months ago, I did see some like this was really close to, it was maybe a quarter of a mile from the road that this happened on, and, this, like, deer that was mangled on the side of the road, not by a car. It was obviously not by a car, but definitely the head and the spleen, and that was pretty much it. And the legs were over there somewhere, like a few feet away. Maybe a couple of the legs were still there. I think two of the legs or something, but everything else was gone. I mean, the spleen was pretty clean. There was a little blood. It was fresh too because I'd just been on that road. Um, Sometimes I take two different ways to town, but I take that way often. And I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. I don't know, but I do take that way often. And I was on that road a couple days prior, and it wasn't there. So I definitely would have noticed something like that if it was there. But I find it funny that it was just really close to where that was.
Yeah, you sent me that picture of that deer carcass. Whatever said in on it did a number on it. They really picked that thing clean. It really did. Now, I know you want to be anonymous, but I see in the live chat a few times the listeners have been asking about the location where this happened. Now, there's no pressure to be specific on this whatsoever, but it's up to you. If you want to reveal a general area where this encounter happened, have at it. If you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. Again, it's totally up to you.
Sure. I mean, I really, um, Peyton, Peyton, Colorado.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you knew there wasn't any pressure on you for that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, good. You told your mom about your experience, and when you did, she had some surprising news to share with you, from what I understand. Please talk us through that.
Yeah, she actually told me that her and my dad were camping many years ago. When and they saw like this she was up in the Rocky Mountains when this happened, but she saw this incredibly like unnatural and naturally large dog. She just said that the head, like when she was describing it to me, she like put her hands out like really big. She was just like the head. There was no way, but it was really, really, really big and like really, really tall. And she said it was sitting down on its butt, but sitting down on its butt, she was like, I think it was probably taller than me. And, um, she got really scared, like spooked, and, she went back to camp. And I don't really know. My dad, he's really super, like a very, like, even if you slapped him in the face with something, he would deny it. So, you know, when I asked him about it, he was just like, yeah, it was just a really big dog. But I don't know. It makes me wonder if it really was just a really big dog, or if it was, because I mean, it was in the middle of the forest, like the middle of the Rocky Mountains, like just a dog, just a huge dog, like a giant dog. That's all she saw, though, that it was just sitting down, and then she quickly made her way back to camp. So
What was going through your mind when she finally told you about that experience?
I immediately, I guess, I immediately jumped to the, you know, conclusion of maybe it was not just a dog, maybe it was a dog man. I don't know.
Was it a relief in a way to find out that she had had that experience and possibly it was a dog man that she saw? Now, of course, not everything out there that's a big canid is a dog man, but there's a possibility, I guess, a very remote possibility that's what it was. And with that in mind, was it a relief for you or did it not move the needle?
Yes, it was, because I really literally thought that she was gonna be like, whatever, like, are you serious? Or, give me a weird look or something. But like I think she believed me, and then she mentioned that, and I was just like, I was surprised. I was like, wow, huh, it's it's pretty crazy. I tried to get more details from her, but that's all the details she had about that. So
Yeah, it's always something when you have an encounter and you reluctantly reach out to your family members to share that experience with them and find out that someone in the family has had an experience with what would appear to be one of these guys the way you did. So, Yeah, it's funny how it works that way sometimes. Now, before I move on, if you have any questions here for Randy that you want me to ask and you're in the live chat, please type it out in all caps. That way I won't miss it. But moving on, now that you told your mom about your experience, has she expressed an interest in trying to find out more about dogmen, or was she business as usual and didn't really have any interest in doing that?
Yeah, she's more of a business as usual.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's not for everyone. I've got a question for you from Quincy Berry. And well, that's a nice avatar pic there. Quincy wants to know, has Randy reached out to anyone in the area to see if anyone else has seen this creature?
I did actually research. I looked it up on Google. I typed in Dogman sightings in Peyton, Colorado, but um found very little on that. So
Well, that goes back to the whole thing that if 100 people have a dogman encounter, huh, probably less than 10 are going to come forward with it. So just because you didn't see anything, as you know, that doesn't mean anything as far as people in the area not seeing this guy or other dogmen, if you do have other dogmen in the area. So just something
yeah.
not to lose sight of. This next question is from Andre Sorz. And Andre wants to know, has anyone in the area gone missing, or have there been, I think he means, have there been reports of other encounters?
Not that I know of, but there has been a few people missing. Not I guess like sporadic throughout the years, because I mean I've lived out here forever, but I do know of one teenager like that's I think they were 14 or something, 13 or 14, that went missing a few years ago, and to my knowledge they haven't been found yet, but yeah, occasionally people go missing. Most of the time they're found though, but there's a few of them I think that haven't been.
Well, that really is a shame. And of course, just because people go missing, that doesn't mean that these guys are responsible for that. I mean, people
No.
fall into old wells and all sorts of other things happen. You never know what might cause someone to go missing. But
Yeah,
just something to
there was a kidnapping not too long ago here. Well, yeah, kidnapping. Little kid that was like 7 or something, but they found the kid like the next day or something like that. But I don't think that, especially since you said that the other day, I absolutely agree with you. And I actually come to think of it, since you had mentioned that, I've realized that, there's way higher chance that that I'll run into a really scary person, human being, than I would, a dog man, because all of the, reports I've listened to on your show, and like, you know, mine and my experience has definitely, what you said does make a lot of sense. Where like, yeah, there's bad guys in every group of creatures, any type of creature, there's good ones and bad ones of every creature out there. But I think there's probably a lot more, you know, bad people out there than there are bad dogmen out there.
Well, I bet you're right about that. Yeah, when you're out and about in the woods, it's normally the two-legged variety that you have to worry about, not dogmen, not Sasquatch. It's people that normally are what you have to really watch out for. It's a shame it has to be that way too. Can you tell us what the terrain is like there in that part of Colorado?
Yeah. So it's definitely, like I said, it's a lot of like fields and cows and farmland, and there are small patches of like woods here and there. But then again, like we're right down the road from Black Forest, which is, um, let's see, I would have to drive maybe a couple of miles to like probably get to the some real woodsy areas, like maybe like a mile and a half or 2 miles, from the edge of Black Forest, which is a really thick, very thick forest. It's pretty big too. But but yeah, where I live and like the surrounding area is just, basically fields and cows and things, golden fields, hills, a lot of hills.
I was going to ask you about that. I should have been more specific. I was going to ask you about the topography. If the hills roll pretty steeply up and down, or are they more of a gentle type rolling hill?
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot of steep hills. Like you can't see like really far, if you're usually wherever you're at out here, there's usually going to be a hill blocking you from, you know, down yonder. There's also some deer out here. There's antelope, lots of antelope. Um some squirrels, like that kind of wildlife. Um yeah, pretty much it.
Sounds like my kind of country. It really does. Let's get to another question from a listener, Christina Easterday. Hey, Christina. She wants to know, did the force go quiet? Thank you for sharing.
It did, right before the growl happened, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not lost on you. That's a pretty common phenomenon when an eyewitness sees one of these guys. So that's not a surprise. It looks like the next one is from Space Jerk 35, and they want to know, hi, Vic and Randy. Randy, did you happen to look for tracks or footprints? Thanks.
I did not actually. I was terrified, so me and the boys kind of like just slept in his living room that night. I went home the next day, pretty much in shock, but when I found that deer carcass, I did look for tracks around it. And the strange thing is I found what looked to be really, really deep, like hoof marks. Like it looked like the deer was like digging itself into the ground, like trying to push its way, like, or I don't know. It was really weird. Like I found some really deep, like his hoofs went really deep into the ground, but no other tracks around it, and the soil wasn't like super soft or anything. So, and it was right by the roadway. So
Huh. That's really strange. Yeah, it does
yeah.
make you wonder. Unreal Estate Agent Unreal Estate Agent 077 wants to know, is there anything historic about the land, such as battlefields, tribal burial grounds?
There is some stuff, like especially Black Forest is like famously known for one specific extremely haunted house. I don't remember the name of the family, but if you just look up the haunting in Black Forest, Colorado, it'll pop up. Um, but yeah, other than that, nothing that nothing I can think of. But like this area of Colorado in general, for instance, like Manitou Springs, which is about 45 minutes from me, is like the witch capital of the world. It's really weird. I don't know. There are some very historic areas around here, but not specifically like right in the same vicinity that this happened in. But, close by, yeah.
You have that many witches around.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. Strange, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's interesting. If you have that many witches around, is it not uncommon when you're in the woods to run across people doing satanic rituals and things like that, or has that never happened to you?
That's a really good question. So actually, um, now that you mention it, yes, I actually have seen some really strange things. I guess probably about, I'd say, between where I live now and between where I saw that on the roadway. This was years ago. I actually have pictures of this too. I'm weird. I have a lot of weird pictures because if I see something weird, I usually take pictures of it. But so there was definitely some type of cult activity going on, because what I saw on the side of the road, that would be the only explanation to explain this. But it was a goat. It was like the head of a goat, and its body was stripped clean. Like it was just the fur of the body. So just the fur, like, it was very clean. Whoever did it did it cleanly, but the head it still had like the eyeballs, like the sockets, you could see like there were rotting inside the eye sockets, like it was really weird. The tongue was like sticking out, and there was still like remnants of like brain and stuff like that in the skull. You could see the partial skull and partial fur and skin remaining, but it was weird. It was almost like somebody made that to look really, really creepy and then stuck it on their head as like a dress or something, like a wear, I don't know what you call it, like a headdress or whatever. It was really creepy.
Yeah, I'm sure creepy doesn't do it any justice. Sure sounds like it is. And it really makes you wonder why anyone would want to do something like that. I never will
Yeah.
understand that. I won't. It looks like Danella Eileen Grenek wants to know, Randy, what about pets going missing?
Not that I could, not that I know of. Well, chickens, like my parents lived out here too until recently, but yeah, chickens would go missing sometimes, which was a real bummer. But and I mean, I wouldn't really know, I guess, because I don't have like a whole lot of friends or anything like that. Like I live in the middle of nowhere, kind of keep to myself. I work every day, but that's pretty much my interaction with people goes that far, at work. So I don't really know too many people out here to know that. So I'm not really 100% sure. But come to think of it too, I do see signs a lot on, you know, I see signs that, like on street signs and stuff. Like there'll be a taped up sign of a pet that's missing, cats, dogs. I do see that a lot. So yeah, I guess the answer to that would be yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. Again, the animals going missing, that doesn't mean that there is definitely a dogman in the area. They can go missing for a lot of reasons, but it is interesting nonetheless that so many of them have disappeared. It does make you wonder what's responsible for that. It really does. Now, you said the boys, they go out and they get out and about, but I know you work all the time, but when you are able to get some time away from work or whatever else you have to do in day to day life, do you still enjoy yourself and head into the woods and do this or that? Or do you try to stay out of the woods and not do things like that, even though you haven't been traumatized by your encounter?
I go outside a lot. I guess not necessarily at night. I get creeped out a lot at night, for some reason, but I do go out there at night, especially like sometimes with the boys. I'll go for a walk with them or something. But no, I mean, I love being outside way better than inside. So especially during the day, like I go outside and catch horny toads and stuff, and you know, being outside is good.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm so glad you're able to still go out and do that. That's great. It really is. The next question for you is from Andres Sorz, and Andre wants to know, did the dogs have a change in behavior after the encounter?
That's also a good question, which I'd like to know because like I said, like after that night, maybe talk to him a couple more times, but over like that whole month, maybe 3 times I spoke with him, but and I'm really curious as to what happened to the dogs when he moved because I don't think he took them with him. I don't know what happened. I don't know what he did with them, if he gave them to somebody or what, but I really don't know the answer to that, unfortunately, because anytime that our mutual friend brings it up to him or has tried to bring it up to him in the past, he will shut her down immediately. So he will not, he refuses to talk about it. We spoke about it that night it happened, like to make sure I was like, did you see what I saw, type thing. But other than that, he's never spoken to anybody about it. Um, I'm not exactly sure why, but
Sounds like it affected him quite a bit more than it affected you. It's a shame
yeah.
it has to be that way, that he had such a hard time dealing with it, but yeah, it happens sometimes. This next one is from Unreal Estate Agent 077, and he wants to know, did you notice anything in the immediate area surrounding, like a strange gust or strange fog, shadow, or light flashes?
Not other than the, abnormally, you know, large amount of activity in the sky, lights wise, like planes, like there were a couple of those lights were planes and, you know, I saw like different colors of, flashing in the sky kind of that was weird. I've never before and never since then seen the sky like have that much activity in it, but that was, you know, really shortly before this happened. So I didn't notice anything other than that, as far as that stuff goes.
Well, like I said, you can only notice so much. I think you deserve a lot of credit for noticing what you did. I really do. The next one is from Unreal Estate Agent 077 again, and they want to know were its body features, was the body structure such as hands and legs shaped like a human?
I wish I knew the answer to that, but I don't because well, the neighbors aren't like super close, but it was. Let me see. If I were to guess, probably, mm, probably about 100, 100 feet or something like that away. And it was really dark it was really dark outside, but the neighbors lit up pathway, was like it was pretty lit up. So that's how I saw the silhouette of it. But I definitely did not notice like any close details like that.
Well,
But
that's
definitely had
okay.
like a hind, like the like the hip of a dog. How it's like you know well, the hip of a dog. It definitely had like the hip of a dog and the structured body. Like if it was just kept on running like without going up on 2 feet, I would have chalked it up to like a really big dog, running up the pathway. But since it did that really weird standing up on 2 feet in mid stride thing, definitely was not just a normal dog.
Yeah, sounds like it. They also want to know, did you notice any eye glow? And if so, what color?
No, I didn't. It was a side view of it, uh, just the silhouette of it, but the side it was just the side of it, so I didn't see any eyes or anything like that.
Well, that's a lot better than it turning and staring you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play the glad game there. Looks like Kellyanne wants to know how tall was the dog man?
I don't know, but, like, I have driven by there, to, like, kinda estimate, it's like, during the daytime and stuff, like, years afterwards. But I've driven by there, a few different times to, like, like, "Okay, well, here's where I was, and there's where I saw it," and, like, you know, I've tried to, like, measure it in my head like that, but, I really, I guess, couldn't give you a it definitely I can say that a lot of the descriptions that I've heard, of it being like 8 or 9 feet tall or something, I don't believe it was like that, but, you know, if I were to go by those descriptions, I would probably guess this probably was like a teenager or something because it wasn't like no 8 or 9 foot tall, I don't think, but it was definitely, I would say, so I'm 5'3". It was bigger than me, it was taller than me for sure. But I don't know exactly how much taller. It's a bummer that it was well, no, it was a bummer and not at the same time because, all I did see was the silhouette of it from the side view, and it was, a little bit of a distance away, but, that's a good and bad thing. I'm curious too.
Well, you see something like that that's not supposed to exist, it's only natural. You're going to be really curious about it. You want to know all you can about it. So, yeah, that's totally normal. It really is. Now, to be thorough, I'm going to ask you this next question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but I'm wondering, again, if you're willing to answer this, have you ever played with a Ouija board at any point of your life?
No, I've always been really, like, way too scared to do something like that, but my grandma, on my dad's side was, like, supposedly a witch, and she had a Ouija board, but I have never personally played with a Ouija board. Nope.
Well, that's a good thing. Glad you never did. It looks like Andre Soares wants to know, did it seem to be aware of you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when I heard that growl, I don't like. I felt like that was intended for not just me, but us. Like this. It was literally coming from everywhere. So yeah, I definitely know. I know for a fact it was definitely aware of us.
Yeah, after you pulled up the way you two did, I can't see how it wouldn't have been aware of you, but that is a good question nonetheless, still. The next one is from Angel Wake. An angel wants to know, was the dogman in a totally solid form when it ran with four legs up to just two legs?
Um, Not sure what you mean by that, but it was, yeah, that was definitely solid.
Yeah, I think what she wants to know is sometimes when people see dogmen, not all that often, but sometimes when they see dogmen, they report kind of an ethereal appearance to them. You can see through them.
Oh no, it was solid. It was like the silhouette of it was black, you know.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that's how it normally is. That's the most common color, and most eyewitnesses report that they're solid in appearance when they see them. The next question for you is from Unreal Estate Agent 077, and they want to know, could you tell if its fur or hair seemed more dark or light? And could you tell if its head seemed more wolf like or dog like or both? Now, you just said, sounds like you just said that it was kind of a blackish color. So I think you already answered that part of the question for us.
Yeah. And the head, like I said, it was, I really, for some reason at the time in my mind, I was, and this was like I didn't even know Dogman existed. I was just like, oh my gosh, werewolf. Like, but the way it looked to me was like a really long haired and long uh greyhound. And I could have chalked that up to be like looking like that because of how fast it was running. 'Cause, like, I mean, it was running fast, on four legs and mid stride stood up on two. So, maybe I associated it with a greyhound because they race. I'm not sure, but I didn't really notice too many details of like the shape of the head, but I do know that like the jaw area had longer like or bushier hair than anywhere else on it. I did notice that. But yeah, it was really fast and it happened so fast. It's hard to say. I don't really remember the details of like the shape of the head, unfortunately. I wish I did, but
Oh, that's all right. I'm impressed by what you did notice and what you can tell us about. This next question is from Bug, and they want to know, are you worried it might come back, and thought of safety situations when your boys go on their walks?
absolutely, so I think about that all the time, but you know, I definitely always make sure that they have something on them, to protect themselves with and but they're teenagers, so I can't just like imprison them in the house, all the time. I have to not let my fears affect them. It's, been hard to kind of let go, but I have a little bit, but they, especially when you explained that the other day, that was really good advice of, what to do if you did encounter one, and just, you are absolutely right that there's, it definitely could have killed us that night. So, I'm definitely a lot more worried about another human being, out there hurting my kids than a dog man.
It's important you understand too that it could have killed you anytime you were in the area where it was around, whether you're inside the house or not. Now, I know you realize that, but it's so easy to lose sight of that fact. I just want to hammer home that fact. Not to the point to give you nightmares or anything like that, but that's really a positive thing. You've been around it as much as you have, and you haven't had any trouble. It's never tried to harm you. So that's something, like I told you in the first conversation, that I hope you never forget and never lose sight of. It looks like the next question is from Unreal Estate Agent 077. He wants to know, did its mouth ever hang open, showing teeth almost as if it was smiling or sneering?
No, I didn't notice any details like that. Um, it never turned its head towards me or anything like that either. So, well, at least not from what I saw. Like, I don't know where, I have no clue where it was when it did that really weird, long, deep growl. But, um, yeah, when I saw it though, like when it was in my vision, it did not look at me or I didn't notice anything like that.
Oh, that's all right. You only can notice what you can notice. So no harm, no foul on that. It looks like the next question is from Glenn Kamada, and Glenn wants to know, being that it was well groomed, did you notice any odors? Thank you.
No, I didn't actually notice any odors.
Yeah, from the distance it was away from you, I didn't think you would have. The next one is from Angel Wake, and she wants to know, when you heard the growling all around you, did you feel it in your body?
Yeah, I did. It was, yeah, like I said, coming from like everywhere, and yeah, it was like a bassy, you know, it's hard to describe it. It really is. That was like that part of it was really terrifying, and that was definitely something I'll never forget. And the length of time that it did that was way longer than you would think that it should have been possible. I mean, it was a really long, drawn out, very strange growl. Yeah, I definitely could feel it in my bones, and it did sound like it was coming from all over, like no way to pinpoint where from.
It sounds like it wanted to get your attention, and get your attention it did. Understandably
Yeah.
so. Looks like the last question I'm going to throw at you is from Unreal Estate Agent, and they want to know, were its ears pointy and on top of its head?
You know, I try to remember like details like that too, and I know that it had like dog ears, and I want to say yeah, they're on the top of the head. Because I just in my when I think back to that memory, I can't like picture that part of it in my head though. But but yeah, so I guess I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, that's all right. Like I said, you can only notice so much, especially when your brains are running out your ears the way it normally happens when you see one of these guys. So, yeah, like I said, also, you can't be faulted for that. You really can't. Well, before we get out of here, Randy, do you have any closing comments you want to put out there for us?
Mm, probably, but nothing I can think of right now at the moment.
That's all right. No, we just appreciate you coming on and sharing the details of that experience with us. We really do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. And like I told you before, if I can ever help you in the future, if you need help or anything like that, just let me know. And of course, I'll be there for you.
I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to do it. Well, having said that, thanks again so much for your time and have a great night.
You too.
Thanks. We'll see ya. Well, that's it for another show. It's in the books. Before I get out of here, two things. Don't forget, every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I release a new episode of my new Dogman podcast called Dogman Tales. Dogman Tales is available however you listen to podcasts except for YouTube. So please keep that in mind when you try to find it. And when you do use your favorite podcast app or however you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio, the last name, Tales, is spelled Tales. It's not spelled Tails. So please keep that in mind. Tales. But before we get out of here, if you've had a Dogman encounter that you either need help with, or maybe you want to come on and share it with the listeners, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. If you do that, then I'll contact you to schedule a phone consultation, and then we'll take it from there. But of course, thanks so much as always for listening to the show. I really appreciate it, and have a great night.